Hello and welcome to the Miles Irvin Show. I'm your host, Miles, and this is episode 4 of the Over Under series. This is a series where I take a look at every team's projected win totals for the upcoming NBA season, and I determine whether I think they're going to win more games or less games. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the Pacific Division. So before we get started, if you would like, definitely leave a comment with your predictions for all these teams. Like I've been saying at the beginning of each video, I definitely want to see what everyone else is thinking about all these teams. And this division is the best in the NBA, so this one I definitely want to hear what you guys are thinking, about all these teams. So let's get into it. Here are all of the teams, and oh my goodness. I mean, where do we even start? I mean, look at all 5 of these teams. We've got the Warriors, Clippers, Lakers, Suns, and Kings. And this is the first time in a very long time where I can confidently say that, this may be the first time ever where all 5 of these teams are legitimately good basketball teams that all have real expectations for this year. So it's going to be really exciting to see all these teams play. And I don't even know where we should start. Let's just go in order. So let's get things started with the Golden State Warriors. They are at 48.5 wins. Now, last year, it was a weird year for the Warriors. And I mainly say that because, when you look at the previous years of their dynasty, 2 of the key things with the Warriors were, 1, their bench was very good and very vital to them winning games. And that was not the case at all for them last year. A big reason why they lost so many games was because the bench came in and just lost leads or allowed the opponent to extend their lead. The starting lineup of Curry, Thompson, Wiggins, and, Green and Looney, and whether Jordan Poole was in there, that starting lineup was very good. It was one of the best in the NBA still, but the bench was atrocious, and that was a huge reason why they lost so many games. The second reason why the Warriors would be so successful in their dynasty is because of their road record. They would always have one of the top road records in the NBA, and last year they went 11-30 on the road, and that is bad. That is really bad. It's unbelievable. There's no way that the Warriors could be worse on the road than last year. They went 33-8 at home, and they always have an elite home court out there, whether it's in Oakland or in San Francisco. But the road record is really what killed them last year. So, the big acquisition of Chris Paul, I think could definitely help in both of those cases. Now, they're saying that Chris Paul, they might experiment with him in the starting lineup to begin in the season. I don't know who you would take out, because I feel like any of those guys you would take out of the starting 5 is not a good idea. I think that Chris Paul at this stage of his career should be, a secondary unit player. He would be by far the most accomplished player to come off the bench. He's one of the greatest point guards in NBA history to set up the shooting of Curry and Thompson and, the post-ups for Wiggins and what have you. So I think that Chris Paul should come off the bench, and I think that his addition could be really huge for the Warriors. I hope, Chris Paul has started in every single game of his life. In college, in the NBA, he has started every single game, I think it's like all 1,400 regular season games, and you throw in a couple hundred playoff games. He's used to starting. I think he should come off the bench for the better of the team. I think that it would run a lot better. Just because, of course, you also have some young guys in that second unit with Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga. They signed Dario Saric to be a backup center. I think that's a great signing. Because, when Dario Saric was overseas before coming into the NBA, he was a very good playmaker. And the Warriors love their playmaking bigs when you look at guys like Andrew Bogut, Zaza Pachulia, obviously Draymond Green. Even like in their last championship, they were throwing Nemanja Bjelica. He can play and make a little bit for you as well. So I think, and then another thing, just coming out today as the recording of this video, Dwight Howard is working out with Golden State next week, so they could get even more centers on their roster as well. But the Warriors, I don't think that there's any way it could get worse than last year because their road record was so bad and the bench was so bad. So I've got the Warriors on the over heading into this season, but with all these teams in the Pacific Division, there is such parity. Really anything can happen, but I'm pretty confident that the Warriors are going to be better than 11-30 on the road, and even if they lose a few more home games, they should still be, a 50-win team in the Western Conference. Now to the LA Clippers. The Clippers are at 46.5 wins. Now, honestly, it's the same thing with this team every single season. On paper, they have the looks to be a championship team. They are so deep. They would be extremely dangerous in the playoffs if they were ever healthy, but they are never healthy. This team always has injuries and various reasons to why they don't have a high seed and why they don't end up performing in the playoffs. Now, that's not totally their fault. Of course, Kawhi Leonard tearing up his ACL in the playoffs and missing all the next year, that's not on him. Him and Paul George getting injured at the end of last year, it's not on him. It's not on them, but it's just like when you're looking, in a standpoint, when you're looking at an over-under standpoint, you got to go under on the teams that are usually injury prone, and the Clippers are always injury prone. But I mean, you also look at the group of guys that they got. I mean, Russell Westbrook was very good for them when he got to the Clippers. Paul George has become one of the most underrated players in the NBA. I hear no one talk about him as being one of the best players at his position. He is still all-star caliber. Of course, you got Kawhi Leonard, who later on in the season played fantastic. He looked like the old Kawhi for the Clippers. And then solid veterans like Nick Batum, Norman Powell off the bench, Kenyon Martin Jr. coming over from the Rockets, and then your center depth of Zubats and Mason Plumlee. This team, you can talk yourself into them being the best team in the Western Conference and competing for a championship, but this team always has injuries, and they aren't that. With the new thing that was approved by the Board of Governors to where you're not allowed to sit two stars in the same game, that should allow the Clippers to win more games, considering that they have three of those stars with Westbrook, George, and Leonard. So two of them, at least two of them, are going to be in every game unless there is an actual injury. But to me, when you're looking at every other teams in the conference and specifically the division, I've got to go with the other teams because the Clippers are never healthy. So the Clippers 46.5 wins. I think they're going to go under. The other team in LA with the Lakers, they are at 47.5 wins. Now, I think that they're going to want a high seed, and, they definitely have the potential to do that because after they made all the trades, to get better last season, acquiring D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura was earlier in the year. I think that this team is going to want a higher seed, especially after, all the scrutiny they got from, making crazy roster moves after winning the championship in the bubble. I mean, that team was a very good team, and just the next couple years later, you trade Kuzma and KCP for Westbrook. That did not work out. You got a bunch of veterans at the end of their career with Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo, even like Wayne Ellington, Trevor Ariza, that was just a bad team. That was a bad put together team. And another reason why I think that the Lakers are going to want a higher seed, and it's something that I don't really hear people talking about when it comes to LeBron, is that since he has signed with the Lakers, besides the year that they won the title in the bubble, they have not finished above 7th place. And that is crazy. That is crazy. They were 2 play-in appearances and 2 times where they just missed it entirely. And I think just for that reason alone, LeBron and them are going to want a higher seed. Now the question is, will they be able to carry their momentum from the end of last year? And will their new additions, play well for them? Their new additions could be hit or miss. Gabe Vincent, Taurean Prince, Cam Reddish, Jackson Hayes, those could, some of them could work out, some of them may not. They could all work out, they could all not work out. We really don't know. Austin Reeves signing his big contract in the offseason. One of the most talked about guys in the league during the offseason. He's got a lot to prove. Jared Vanderbilt just signed a 4-year, $48 million extension. But this Lakers team, I think that they are going to go over. the 48, 47 and a half win mark, just because I think that they're going to want a higher seed, and this team is definitely capable of that. And LeBron at this late stage of his career, it's incredible to think that he's still playing this well. But I expect more greatness from the Kings, so I think that they're going to go over. Sacramento Kings are up next, and they are at 44 and a half wins. Now, last year was a dream season for the Kings, making the playoffs for the first time in forever. I believe the number is 16 years, maybe it's 17 years. Um, you know, I think just the main question, because they basically have the same team, they made sure to re-sign their same guys with like Harrison Barnes, re-signing Sabonis, getting Trey Lyles back. Um, can they repeat the same successes that they had last year? They didn't make any significant changes, which I think is great considering the history of the Kings. Um, they were a great team offensively last year, but I think teams now, after a full year of seeing the Kings be really good, can they pick it up defensively? Can they still win, a decent amount of games? I don't think they'll be able to get home court like they did last year in the playoffs. Um, I think that'll be tougher for them to do since the Western Conference got so much better and now people are more ready for the Kings. But I still think that 44 and a half wins is a bit low for a team with such a good offense and a team that can clamp up, in decent moments, like we saw in that Golden State series, that they had solid moments on the defensive end as well. So I've got the Kings on the over just because 44 and a half wins seems a little bit low, but I don't think that they're going to be able to fight for a home court advantage or get the third seed like they did last year. But I think the Kings can still have a very solid year. And then last but certainly not least, we've got the Phoenix Suns at 52 and a half wins. Now the Suns, of course, acquiring Bradley Beal, that was the biggest move of the summer. You know, I think it will take some time for this big three to work together with Beal, Booker, and Kevin Durant. Durant was only there. He only played like 7 regular season games for the Suns last year, and they kind of flamed out. At the end of that Nuggets series in the second round. After they made the Bradley Beal trade, I know I'm talking about on this show, like they had 4 players on their roster, and were they going to be able to surround their star players with good role guys that can contribute to winning basketball? And I think they did a great job of doing that. When you look at it, Eric Gordon, a Drew Eubanks was good off the bench for Portland last year. Even like some low-key guys like Keita Bates-Diop, I think is a sneaky, good pickup for the Spurs or for the Suns from the Spurs. I think that he could be a guy that eventually starts for the Suns. Josh Okogie and Keita Bates-Diop, I think, are pretty similar guys, but Keita Bates-Diop is a little bit bigger. Josh Okogie's a bit better defender, but people didn't watch the Spurs to really see what Keita Bates-Diop can do. So how will he perform now that he has an actual role on a good team? Yuta Watanabe, one of the best three-point shooters in the league last year with the Nets. Jordan Goodwin was acquired from Washington. He showed just decent flashes with Washington last year. I think that 52 and a half wins. It's definitely a good number for them, but I don't know if they'll be able to get to that because with all the time that they're going to have to, gel together to begin the year, I don't know if they're going to be able to win a significant amount of games. Because when you look at the other teams in the Western Conference, you can say what you want about all these other teams, but, they've all basically stayed intact. I mean, the only one that really got, you could really say worse is Memphis, but that's just because Ja's suspended. He's going to be back. And I think, as I mentioned in a previous video when I was talking about that team, I think they're still going to be pretty good. So there's definitely no easy days in that Western Conference unless you're maybe going up against the Spurs. But to me, the Suns at 52 and a half, they definitely can win more, but I've got them on the under just because it's so competitive. It's so competitive in the Western Conference that I don't know if, similar to the East, I don't know if any team is going to win a significant amount of games, but the Suns are definitely title contenders, and They definitely are one of the favorites to win it all, just because that star power is just incredible. It'll be interesting to see if DeAndre Ayton ends up getting traded and how he plays now in a fourth option role, where he won't get as many post ups, as he might like. Um, so we'll see how he fares with the Suns. But the Suns, even though I've got them on the under, I think they're still going to be really good in the regular season, and they're definitely a force to be reckoned with once April and May come along. And that is it for the Pacific Division. Like I said at the beginning of the video, please leave a comment with your thoughts on all of these teams. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more NBA content. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. My name's Miles, and I'll catch you in the next one.